What's up, guys? Welcome to the Web3 Gamer Podcast, where we cover the frontier of Web3 gaming. You might not have been early to Bitcoin or Ethereum, but if you're listening to this show, tuning in, you are early to Web3 gaming, and you might just have a chance to make it. I'm your host, Axie, and today I'm very excited to speak with today's guest, a gamer who needs no introduction because, in my opinion, he's a top gamer and creator in the space. Brycent, man, how you doing?
Yo, what's going on, Axie? Thank you for having me on the show. I don't know, you give me a little bit too much credit. I think I'm doing my thing, but you're doing pretty well yourself. I mean, look at the camera, the screen, like the entire setup and presentation is pretty sick. So I'm thankful to be on chatting with you about Web3 gaming, this entire world of what we're building, and just diving deeper onto topics that we are both big fans of.
Hell yeah, I love that, and I appreciate that. But you're definitely the inspiration, and bring the energy and the vibe. So I really appreciate having you on. You were streaming earlier. How'd your stream go? What were you playing?
It went pretty good. I started off, I was playing a little bit of STG football, which is like a Web3 based NFL Blitz style football game, which was really cool. Eventually transitioned to try out the new Champions IO or Champions Ascension. It used to be.
Yep.
They have like this fighting game. So I played a little bit of that, played a couple games. It was okay. Not my style of game. I'm not a big fighting game guy. Like, it's interesting because the games will reach out and like I have my own genres that I'm like, all right, like this is kind of like my realm of like things that I like to stick in. So it was cool to kind of jump in and chat a little bit. But my audience it's always there. It's like always the same 25 to 30 people that consistently, hop in the streams. And I don't know how they do it. It's 4-hour streams. So it's like, it's not like we're doing what I used to do, which was like the small 2-hour streams. So it's a lot of fun. It's a blessing. But we played a couple of games. I ended the night with a Web2 game, playing some Apex. But now I'm chatting with you.
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the current Web3 games that we're playing. We're gonna dive into that. But first, I wanted to start with a little bit of your background. Get to know a little bit of your backstory. So, do you mind telling me a little bit more about how you got started in crypto and then found Web3 gaming and then really your journey as a content creator?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of content creation, I've kind of been trying and tampering and giving content a go probably 10 years. I mean, 10 years in the making before like things actually took off. I think the first time I did content, I was actually making sneaker videos. Like I was a big sneakerhead. And as a kid, I mean, I was like 14, 15. I didn't have a job. So I had to like go out and find interesting ways to, make a little bit of money here, save a little money there. And then I would like record sneaker videos on my phone. And then eventually I found this guy named Chris Move who made these really cool Call of Duty videos and expanded to, I want to make like gaming commentary. So I would, I bought the whole, HD PVR back in the day and gave it a go. Of course, none of that took off. And eventually, I went to college, graduated with a political science degree, tried content, tried going, the competitive gaming route. I pretty much tried everything. And then after college, taught myself how to code, ended up getting a job as a software engineer. COVID hit, and it was like later the following year, like I think we were like 8 months past COVID, where I was working on a startup on the side and kind of doing my thing. And I was like, wow, I'm like really burning myself out. So I ended up taking a break from all of that and said, okay, I'm just going to go be a bum in my spare time. And that's when I found this whole Web3 gaming space. I was actually listening to Andrew Steinwald. He hosts a Suffermion podcast. And what ended up happening was he was talking about virtual land in a game called Axie Infinity like last April. So I was like, all right, well, let's jump into it and see what the hell it is. They were like, oh, it's like Pokemon on the blockchain. And I remember playing Pokemon as a kid. So when I first got into the game, the whole idea of battling like characters and shit like that is what really brought me into it. And I was like, all right, well, this is cool. I go on Twitch, realize, all right, I can't find any information on this game. No one was streaming it. And I was like, huh, no one's streaming it. This is a market that like, I don't know, maybe I could make some content and maybe, build a small audience. Well, it ended up going crazy. It blew up. I became kind of the quote unquote, I would say it. I was like the guy for Axie Infinity. I think I was the best content creator to ever touch Axie Infinity. I enjoyed my time there playing Axie. And I enjoyed meeting people around the world. It was a great experience. But again, I didn't work for Axie, didn't have any say in what was happening over there. So, I kind of saw the writing on the wall and decided I wanted to pivot and be more so focused on Web3 gaming as a whole. I think around that time, it was last December. Me and Vayner have been chatting for a while. The head of gaming or vice president of gaming at Vayner, Darren Glover, reached out and was like, "Yeah, we want to sign you. We want to, help you build your brand, continue growing, and helping steer the Web3 gaming category." So, I signed with Vayner Sports in January.
I want to get into Vayner.
Yeah.
I do want to ask about that and like learn more about that a little later.
Yeah.
But I missed the whole first like Axie Infinity bull run. I wasn't in Web3 gaming at the time. I was in crypto. I was in DeFi. I was like doing all the DeFi stuff. But I came late to Web3 gaming. I got in around December of last year with Ice Poker, and maybe in like a fortunate way kind of missed a lot of the bull run, and then like, have had to grind through this part. But like, I'm really curious about that time in your time in Axie Infinity when it was blowing up and you were creating content and, there was like this bull run and it was like this new paradigm. Like, can you speak a little bit more about that? Cause it was a huge part of, your journey in at that time, right?
Yeah. I mean, so there's a couple things that a lot of people fail to realize about Axie Infinity.
Mm-hmm.
One, and I'll be kind of like very transparent.
Yeah.
I don't think like Axie Infinity was never designed to be this scholar farming platform that kind of, provided money to people to play video games and earn money as a result of it. And when I jumped into Axie Infinity, I didn't even know what the hell a scholar was.
Yeah.
I had like $10,000 to my name at the time, and I was like, yo, gas fees. It cost me like $70 in gas fees just to buy an Axie off the market. This is like pre-Ronin.
Yeah.
So like when the Ronin network came out, I think it was a couple months after I entered Axie Infinity, the whole scholarship craze, it had like people it was taking off and people were getting interested in doing it. But two things that I noticed that were like lacking in the space that really were needed to kind of be the key unlocks. And I mean, if you go back to that like time last year, there were no Filipino people on Twitter. Most of them like resided on Facebook, or they would sit in the Axie Infinity like Discord.
Mm-hmm.
And Axie Infinity had a segmented Discord chat that was for scholarships and Filipino people, and they would just literally just spam message, I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
I can be a scholar. I can work 100,000 hours a day. Yeah. And what I realized, I was like, this is like, it's almost degrading to see this, because you have a ton of these really talented people that don't understand how talented they are.
Yeah.
And they're being put in a position to almost have to, in a sense, like sell or contract themselves out to these serfs or landlords of these Axies who most of them really don't give a damn about them. So two things that I noticed was I made a video and I talked about how to get a scholarship. Was one of the first things that I did when I jumped into the scholar realm. And it was never for the purposes of making money, because to be honest, I didn't take out any money that I made off of scholarships. All of it was like put back into Axie Infinity and growing and helping more people, make money and earn a living. Mm-hmm. But two, the whole idea behind it was I realized that there was a big gap in social media in terms of these people understanding how to leverage Web3 to find opportunities, whether it was in Axie Infinity, in other games, or in other roles like digital or, metaverse related jobs. So when I was Twitch streaming, I had started building up a small following. I think I was averaging like 50 concurrent viewers. And one of my good friends, and he actually got a lot of flack in the Axie community. His name was Whoop-de-Doo. He actually was the person that onboarded me into Axie. And he said, yo, maybe we should like start like posting your Twitch stream in the Filipino chat, like in the Discord, because like they don't even know that like Twitch exists. They don't know that they could earn a scholarship from just watching your stream. And at first it was just like a harmless thing, because I was like, all right, we got like 50 people. Like at the max, I'm like, I was working with a couple of folks and we had a small scholarship. I was like, we'll be able to like, get things rolling. So the stream had about 50 concurrent at the time. But, after like a week or two of posting and getting like a consistent stream schedule going, it got to the point where, I mean, it jumped from 50 to like 100, and then from 100 to like 300. I think within like a 2-month period, I was averaging like over 1,000 viewers. And I think when we ended up maxing out, I think my largest stream ever had like over like 5,500 people watching. It was people watching like they would have entire families of people watching me stream. And I knew, I was like, we have this many people that are looking for this thing.
Yeah.
There's no way I can do this unless we like raise like venture funded capital to like build out a bigger ecosystem to get people involved. And it wasn't something that like I intentionally meant to happen. It just kind of happened. So, and other people would come in. Like I see some people, like I created the entire watch to earn thing. Like that was my term. That was my thing. But it wasn't to be a malicious thing of like, oh my goodness, have all these people in your stream and you never give them scholarships. We were giving them out at our own pace. But the idea was you watch me play the game, you learn how to interact within Web3, within the ecosystem, and you be entertained. I mean, there were so many people who tried to do the whole watch to earn thing and failed because at the end of the day, you got to be an entertaining content creator. And that piece was lacking. But again, you know, everything that is good can potentially come to an end. And of course it did, because monetarily, I think that like the structure of how tokenomics were built in the game and how the team, I would say they were very negligent in growing, you know, beyond a certain point. And then throwing people under the bus or throwing the guilds under the bus that pretty much built and propped up their game. But we can get into that later.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. So you spoke a little bit about, so it really kind of blew up for you. You know, a lot of people were tuning in, and it sounds like you had this business mindset, and you also had like the proper mindset where you were doing it for the right reasons and wanting to give back. And you're like, I'm getting all this viewership. How do I, give back, or what's the best way to give back? So you mentioned the venture funding. So I'm assuming that's Loot Bolt, and I do want to get a little bit more into Loot Bolt at the end of the podcast. But was that the genesis of Loot Bolt?
No, I mean at the time the company wasn't called overarching company was called Loot Squad. And
okay.
You know, sorry, we were going to be a guild. Loot Squad is still around. We don't run the guild side of things. Loot Bolt happened in January. We pivoted to a more of a technology company. By then we had closed our funding round, and we noticed that, okay, this whole guild model thing was like not going to work. It's not helping the space. And then like there were a lot of malicious actors. So we switched and became a full-fledged tech company. And that's how Loot Bolt became a product.
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? Like, you know, the Axie Infinity play to earn model. I also got into the Ice Poker play to earn model, and we learned the same things that Axie had to learn. Yes, that is a whole other rabbit hole. I did want to ask you, Brycent, because I watched one of your videos and you mentioned basically making $1 million in Axie Infinity. So how did that happen? Because again, I missed this whole bull run, and I think you mentioned in like a video before that, like you were getting really excited, Axie's going to be a thing, and maybe put in like, I don't know, $10,000 or something like that, and then it grew massively. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of like making $1 million, it's not an on paper $1 million.
Sure.
You know, when you start a venture funded company, Loot Squad, we raised with venture-backed capital at a $35 million valuation. Wow. So when you raise money, a startup at a certain valuation, your net worth is very much dependent on the equity of the startup. So it wasn't a liquid $1 million. Okay. Now, in terms of the money I actually made off of Axie, it didn't come from selling assets. It came from selling like AXS. I bought a big bag of it when it was low. I made around like 180 grand liquid capital. Wow. From in about, I think it was like 3 to 4 months of playing Axie Infinity. Wow. But that was like completely outside of my equity in my company. Yeah, we raised at a $35 million valuation. So me owning 30% of a $35 million company, you can kind of like deduce what the equity valuation and the net worth is after kind of doing that. But you know, it doesn't really mean much in terms of liquid unless you eventually sell the company. So it's no different than if you took Sam Bankman-Fried's net worth, like, what was it, like $20 billion before their company went under, and now it's like, I think less than $1 billion or whatever, which is still an absurd number. But net worth equity is much different than like liquid, like having a liquid $1 million. I don't have a liquid $1 million. I wish I did. That'd be great. But yeah.
Cool. So how did you get into, and we just real quickly, how did you get into even getting starting a venture-backed company and getting venture funding? And I asked that because that's really impressive, right? You started streaming, you found this game, it kind of pops off. for other creators who, you know, maybe want to start a business or something like that, or even thinking about that? I mean, I'm sure a lot of creators aren't even thinking on that scale or that level. So
Yeah.
what was it? Where did that come from for you, or how did that pan out?
So I've always been very entrepreneurial, like, and savvy. I
Hmm.
had started or tried to start companies in the past that tried to raise money and
Okay.
couldn't do it. But, I built up a really strong reputation in Web3,
Hmm.
continuing to do so. But, I saw, companies like Yield Guild raising, like raising insane funding rounds. And
Right.
I think it's a couple of other guilds like Merit Circle. They were raising so much money and launching tokens. And I was like, I don't understand how these, like, nothing against them. I didn't understand like where like how this model was like this venture funded model. But I was like,
Yeah.
if they're raising all this money to do this thing, I was like, I think I can create a company that's sustainable as well.
Sure.
So I reached out to some folks. I spoke with Gabby. Actually, Gabby's one of our investors in the round.
Very cool.
And I was like, all right, we're gonna like try to raise money for this thing. And once word got out, there were tons of VCs that were lining up to like lead the round and fund us.
Mm.
We eventually settled with Delphi Digital because they were leading the space
Oh wow.
and they had the most experience at the time. So we raised about $5 million for the company at a 35 mil valuation. But I think that like if you really want to start a company in Web3, the best thing you can do is like try to build up a brand for yourself, because I think where like raising money from like large VCs comes and goes, a lot of it is moving in the space of creators dominating where funding happens. Like
Hmm.
if you look at Mr. Beast trying to raise, a venture funded round for his YouTube businesses that is going to do incredibly well. I think that ultimately we're going to see more of this in the future. So building up your own brand and being creative and finding really cool and interesting problems to solve in the market is how I think you get there. I think what we saw the last bull run was a lot of people were trying to create solutions for problems that didn't exist.
Right.
And that is why we see so many companies that either failed or they didn't have like long-term sustainable models, or they're like trying to figure out what the hell do they do now, because there was no true solution for what they were building, and there
Hmm.
still might not be one, but they were like, oh, let me build this thing and then search for some way to like really solve an issue later. When in retrospect, like if you're building a venture funded company, you want to start off with the problem. Like, oh wow,
Yeah.
this is a big issue in the market. And I know if I do these three things and create a company and a structure around this, we can attack this problem and try to solve it in a way that is more efficient than every other company on the planet. That's where like venture funded companies are born or bred.
Well, that's probably a good segue into Loot Bolt and what you're building there, which I think is awesome. I've participated in some of the Loot Bolt bounties on the ice poker side. So, can
Yeah.
you tell me a little bit about Loot Bolt and the problem that Loot Bolt is solving?
Yeah, so I think the biggest problem, and this is an issue that we saw like early days, at least I did when we, were deep in the Axie space and like the guild realm, was you have a ton of people in Web3, especially on the community building side, and it's a two-pronged issue. On the community building side, you have a ton of people who are everyday active in, communities, whether it's on Discord, Twitter. We all have these very strong embedded communities where people interact and talk, but for the
Hmm.
most part, there's no real way for someone to enhance themselves in Web3 and to grow and to build some sort of like professional presence without being the guy who's tweeting 1,000 times or in every single Twitter space or doing like 100,000 things. It's just
Yeah.
not possible. So
Yeah.
what we realize is that like one, people have no way to show true progression of like their skills in Web3 and leveraging those skills to get some sort of job or opportunity or work heavily within the projects that they are like a part of. And then two, for these companies, when you don't have a token, when you don't have some sort of NFT or news to launch, we realize that like these companies struggle to
Hmm.
grow and retain audiences and take and expand those audiences to new heights. They have no way to build organic communities that will go out and be their strongest, I would say, champions to
Hmm.
grow the project organically. And where we saw this like value add was Bolt created a world where we could pay people on chain, but directly where people were living or working and interacting, which is in Discord, for
Hmm.
doing tasks. It could be something as small as like clicking a reaction on a different post in Discord, or creating actual content and paying people for that content. I was like the first use case. I used to pay people out directly in Discord for creating thumbnails for my YouTube video. But what we soon realized was that this was like a really big market, and we just kept doubling down and enterprising and making the project larger. And now it's like probably, I would think, one of the best community building tools in Discord for projects. And we still haven't really launched openly. I think that things are going to look a lot different when we launch the UI later in a couple of months. But it is exciting to see like projects like Ice Poker really taking to the product and like loving it. And it's something that we've seen across the space. But ultimately, I see where the product sitting is a combination of Fiverr, LinkedIn, and brand and loyalty rewards. So if you think about like, for example, Starbucks comes into Web3. Starbucks has a loyalty program in Web2. Like, okay, and that program is, a user buys 5 coffees and spends $25 to get 1 free coffee. Okay, that's great or whatever. So someone, your customer cost per acquisition is you're giving up a free coffee every 5 coffees. But what about the people who can't afford to buy five coffees that can help add to the value proposition of the business? What about the person that could go make a TikTok video that could go viral, have 100,000 people see that TikTok? How are they rewarded in Web3 for helping that project grow?
Yeah.
There's no real rhyme or reason behind it. So our thought process is, how do we help projects find their strongest community builders and then reward them for doing work directly where those communities live? Right now, that's in Discord. Eventually, it'll be on the Bolt platform and in other places. But we see it as like a future use case of not only micro jobs in the microeconomy, but creating more organic and sustainable communities in the future.
I love that, man. I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, it makes so much sense, right? Because we're operating not only in the creator economy, but in Web3, we're pushing forward, player-owned economies, and of course, it's gaming. So, gaming is built off of not only incredible, fun, amazing games, but the gamers who play them. Without the gamers, there would be no game and no community. So connecting that bridge, going direct to the community, but also like, peer to peer, right? That's what Web3 and crypto is about, and making tools for that industry and that emerging, technology makes a ton of sense. So it's like a, community tool supercharging, right now, I guess it's in Discord. You have plans to bring it larger than Discord?
Yeah, it's going to be its own platform, and probably Q1 of next year, it's going to drop. We have like devs building it now. It's going to be its own Lupo platform. So, I mean, from a user doing work directly in Discord or in other places to having their own basic, like almost like a LinkedIn profile of all of the work that they've done in different communities and being able to leverage that to grow and build and get more jobs or opportunities in Web3. We're trying to build what the future of work looks like for Web3 based companies.
I love that. I love it because, I do a lot of giveaways on my streams as well. And crypto is amazing for giveaways. Send me your MetaMask address, boom, peer to peer. I'm going to send you the money right now. I don't have to worry about logging into my bank or going to PayPal and like, dealing with these, third party, custodians. It's just direct peer to peer through, smart contracts and things like that. So I think building a community building tool, for this emerging space is really brilliant. And Loople, I mean, my experiences already with Loople have been great. So that's super cool, man. I love that. I did want to circle back to the Vayner Sports. So you signed with Vayner Sports and Gary Vaynerchuk. What does that mean, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, so like, in terms of signing, they manage me. I'm their client. So they, when the time is right and opportunities come across that make sense, they find me brand deals, partnerships, things for the Brycent brand to, one, help my brand grow, have me connected within their organization, and also, help them. Vayner is, they have multiple companies under the Vayner umbrella, VaynerX being the larger overarching company. But Vayner Sports is like a client management agency. So they manage myself. They manage Booga, who's the much larger content creator than myself, and he's like the Fortnite World Cup champion. And also they have a host of athletes. So you're talking baseball players and football players is also their specialty. So they have a fair amount of people or notable individuals that they manage under the Vayner brand. And as a byproduct of working with them, I've seen, ton of opportunities, more speaking engagements, more partnerships. I'm doing more things now in the bear market than, I didn't take any deals in the bull market. So it's cool to see now that I'm being able to do more things and bring more people to get involved. So it's definitely been an incredible experience working with Vayner.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine. Sorry, because you were starting to go into it, but I interrupted you earlier. How did it come about? Was it just because you were the guy in the space and they took notice of you and they wanted to? Obviously, Gary Vaynerchuk was launching VeeFriends and very much in the NFT crypto space. So were they just trying to build something in the space, or how did it happen?
Yeah. So what happened was initially Gary just DM'd me one day and said, "Keep crushing it."
That's sick.
It was kind of crazy because I wasn't even following him at the time. Like I knew Gary well, but I wasn't following him. I missed the DM for a couple of days because it was at the time I was being hoarded with probably like 500 to 1,000 DMs a day because of Axie Infinity. And it was in my request. And I go and check my request like every now and then. And it just said, "Keep crushing." And I was like, holy shit, it's Gary V. So, I had my little moment where I was like, wow, like this dude's probably one of the most, I'm willing to bet he's the busiest business mogul on the planet right now. And he found a way to DM me. So he took notice. I think a couple of days later, Darren, who's the vice president at Vayner, reached out. And this was like summer of 2021. So it was like super early on, and we basically just jammed out. We didn't even talk about them signing me for months. We just kind of jammed out. I helped them get more acclimated with Axie and the entire space and learn about gaming. He was already working with Buckus, so we jammed out for a fair amount of time. And then, in December, 6 months after we started talking, they were like, "Yeah, we want to sign you and bring you in and focus on making you the leader of the Web3 gaming category." And at the time I had started my Axie transition, but I knew at that point, it's like, all right, like we're 100% out of Axie, like we're going to do our thing. And this was in December. So we didn't announce the actual signing until April, but I think it was a combination of good timing, one, and then two, most people that are leading categories of gaming, they don't, to be honest, they don't look like me. They're not, the black kid that's, coming up from a town that no one's ever heard of and then pops off in a space and can kind of do the entrepreneurial side and the gaming side, and and has a level of entertainment to him. So it was a bit different, than the kind of clients that I wouldn't say Vayner normally gets, but the kind of clients that gaming organizations normally pick up. So Vayner is just my management agency. We're actively in talks with organizations like major esports organizations about Brycent signing, with them. Brycent as in my brand, but myself. But it's interesting because this is shit that I never would have thought or expected to happen. But it's when you're in that spot, you just find a way to rise to the occasion, or you let it you let the moment become bigger than you.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a no-brainer why they signed you, because you're so talented and you're
giving me too much credit. Oh
no, you're humble, and I love that and respect it. But where was I going with that? I don't know. So let me go with this. So you bring so much energy and passion into the space, right? But you're also very generous with a lot of your giveaways, and you're very supportive. You support everyone in the community, in the industry. It feels like a right out of the Gary V playbook, because he talks a lot about giving more value than you take. But I'm curious, where does that come from for you? Was that something that you were already kind of, that's who you were, and that's who you developed to be? Where did that kind of come from?
Believe it or not, I think that it might not seem like it, but I feel like I'm at times I feel like I'm incredibly selfish. Sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. Sometimes I feel like with the opportunities I have, I'm not working hard enough or doing enough to grow. And I don't know, maybe I've gotten in this world where it's oh man, you got to keep going. But one thing that I really picked up on early was I really liked what I was doing in this space. And I wanted to put myself in a position where I could help people, because, dude, I mean, I remember growing up, and getting into college, and you take out student loans to go to school because people tell you need a college degree to get something, get somewhere, and working 18 credit hours my senior year while working a full 40-hour work week as a kebab shop like cook at a random restaurant.
Yep.
And you're in those moments, and you're working overtime with people who are like illegal immigrants, and they're here because they have to send money back to their family. And like I look at that, like those moments, I'm like, these people are in like a never ending loop. Like this is what their life is going to look like, because they were dealt these cards and they have to take care of people. And from my perspective, I know that like I've been incredibly privileged to be able to not only sit here, but to have the opportunities I've had. And I'm like, I don't want to ever look back and like think that I didn't do enough with what I was given, but also I didn't help enough people with what I was given. So, when I jumped into Axie, my thoughts were like, dude, all these people have skills and talents and abilities. And yeah, I gave back. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that I probably gave out in terms of like Axie equivalent value. It was close to like $30,000 I like on my taxes that like from giveaways and just assets. And dude, sometimes, I mean, there was some like Filipino people, and I love them to death. Like one girl, she DM'd me one day and was like, yo, I'm not going to be able to go back to school this semester. And I mean, I like gave her $1,000 in ETH to get her back in school. And this isn't stuff I normally talk about, but it's like, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't know, because it's just like, it's not meant for everybody to know. Sometimes it's just like, you don't have to be the person that gives and then says, hey, I gave this to this person. Like, you guys need to know that I'm giving shit away because like, I'm like the greatest person ever. It's the thing of like, you do shit because that's just who you are. It's how you want to like be perceived. And also I'm very religious. I'm a Christian, and I always believe that, if you give, it'll always come back to you in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not when you want it, but always, maybe when you need it. So, I would say I've always been the most like I said, I think I'm a selfish person, but I try my very best to give when I can. And I think that like everyone should try to do something for somebody else every day. I remember reading a book, and they were talking about, can you wake up once a day and like have just certain challenges? Like, how do you like go about making someone smile every day? Give back to someone every day. Find a way to teach someone something, like doing things that are beyond you and don't benefit you in any way, shape, or form. And if you can find ways to do that, I think that like it makes life a bit more fulfilling.
I love that so much. I love that so much. I try to put out a lot of positivity and a lot of.
Oh, you do, dude. You're incredibly positive.
I appreciate that. I do it from a place of like, I've been through difficulty, and I know how much that sucks, and it hurts, and it's painful. I think I naturally, like, I'm an only child to like a single working mom. So like, I feel like grew up with like a lot of empathy. So I just like feel how other people feel, and I know how bad things can feel. And it's like, you got to just choose positivity. You got to choose, the bright side. And like, Gary V like really, like synthesized that for me at one point, because he was like, make positivity louder, like just make it louder. And I love that. I've got that in my Twitter profile. And it's funny because that's exactly the same reason why your reason for getting into Axie was the same reason why I got into ice poker. Like I found ice poker. I thought it was cool because I played poker as a kid and throughout my 20s. And I knew that, and it was also like the first time that NFTs clicked for me, where it's like, oh, you need it to play the game, and then you earn. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's unique. I haven't seen that. It's not just a profile picture, right? Yeah. But I knew that there was a lot of like because they had the scholarship model. So there's a lot of people coming into the game that probably don't know how to play poker, or at least, some of these advanced strategies and techniques and, just advanced levels. So I was like, oh, I'm playing anyways. I'm like spending my time anyways. Why don't I just stream it, and I can talk and help people learn how to beat ice poker? That was like the original reason I got into it. And I won't go too far onto that, but like, it was just to give back, because we're, why not? And I completely agree with you, man. Like, I've done private stuff to help people before, because it's like, that's it's just what
it's just who you are, man.
Yeah,
it's who you are.
So I love that, man. I love that. I want to talk about more specifically about Web3 gaming. So, like, what would you say your mission is in Web3 gaming? Because you are at the forefront, and you I consider you a thought leader, right, in the space, because you will make these, dear Web3 gaming, call outs, or you'll put out these messages, right? And, you very clearly care deeply about the space and growing the space and helping the space. How do you feel, your mission is in Web3 gaming?
I think that my mission is to, I don't want to say something like cliche, like, oh, I want to bring 1 million gamers to the space. I think my mission is to create a world where people understand that they don't have to be taken advantage of by gaming publishers, and that there is enough power in people to be able to provide feedback and have that feedback being taken into account when it comes to how their money is spent in these games and how often they're being taken advantage of. Because I love playing games like, FIFA Ultimate Team. I grew up on that, but it's very malicious in how, you're in these loot crates and you open these assets and you got to buy the same thing every year, and it's this endless game loop. And the only real reasoning or rationale that these companies have behind that is, oh, it's an entertaining game. You're being entertained. It's like, okay, so why can't I have my cake and eat it too? Yeah, you can create an entertaining game, but you can also create a world where economies allow people to have collectibles that are digital assets that are worth something to people. No different than someone who buys a baseball card that is worth $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I have 2,600 hours logged in CS:GO. Imagine if those skins were on the blockchain and like those skins actually represented something outside of Steam's, closed and centralized marketplace where you can't take any money out. People connect the time spent with actual monetary value, regardless of if we realize it or not. I look back at that 2,600 hours in CS:GO and I'm like, I had a great time, but I mean, I could have spent that 2,600 hours in college going out with my friends, spending time learning a skill. Hell, I could have learned to code, 5-6 years sooner. So for me, it is a thing of like, we are very much in a space where understanding that our time is valuable in all walks of life and however it's spent. And it's not just in gaming. That's why I give back so much on the content side, because if someone's willing to sit and watch me for 4 hours on stream, you should have the opportunity to earn something as a byproduct. Whether it's stream one where I'm giving away a free PO-op that might actually, provide some monetary value in the future, which I have plans for my PO-ops, or whether it's you owning something or owning a PO-op and that gets you into a raffle or giveaway that could potentially win you 10, 20, $100, $200 items. I think all of that is important. It goes into like rewarding your audience, and it's a never-ending loop for me now because, as I do partnerships and deals, like, and I'll disclose it, so, around my normal going rate is somewhere between like the $15,000 mark when I'm doing a partnership with a game or a company. And a lot of the times what that ends up resulting in is Brycent does a deal with a game or a company, 10 to 20% of that deal goes back into the same giveaways that you're seeing on my streams. So yeah, when I go and buy 10 or 12, Dr. Disrespect dead drop like founders passes, it's not because I need 10 passes to play the damn game, but it's like, oh, if I'm making 10 grand here, what's stopping me from taking $1,000 or $2,000 and saying, these people watch my streams consistently. They're a big part of the reason why I'm able to make money. If I can help them make money as a byproduct of being a part of my streams and help them live a better quality of life, it allows me to not only continue doing what I love, but continue being around the people in my community that means the most. So I do my very best to create this like life cycle. Yeah, I'm doing well. We're building content. And that's why, I don't tell people to go out and like, oh, watch all my YouTube videos and like my stuff. I love it when people do that because it allows me to do bigger brand deals so I can give that shit right back to the community. And I think it's like, that's where content creation is really going to see its growth pattern in Web3. It's not just a thing of content creators making all the money and all you guys do is get to sit there and be like, hey, man, thanks for being my sub. Guess what? I saw your 12 months badge on stream. We're all going to make it, even though, I'm the only one that's really making it. The idea is if I'm able to eat, why can't my entire community base eat with me? And that's what I take to my Twitch stream. So it's like, I don't give a damn if it's one person or 100. If it's one person, then he just wins everything and it's fine. If it's 100 people, then it's like, we spread it out and be more consistent around like how people are being rewarded. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna reward people for providing their time to me because I know their time is valuable. And I'm thankful for the fact that people take their time to spend it on my Twitch streams.
I love that, man. I love that. Hell yeah. I'm getting fired up, man. It's what I love about it. It's a win-win-win, right? Which is the trifecta, that's what you want. It's a win for the viewers because, they're a part of this and they get rewarded. They have like a piece of it, right? They, like you said, they've earned it. They deserve it. I completely feel the same way. It's a win for the games because, we're bringing audiences, or they're getting promotion, or they're getting content, or they're getting eyes, and they're just having people invest their time and energy into their game. And then it's a win for the content creators because it allows them to continue creating content and invest in their content, level up their content, and continue doing what they're doing. So like it's a fun place to be. And I feel like not only does gaming enable that, but the Web3 crypto aspect enables it, because those virtues and values are built in to the ethos of crypto. It's, peer-to-peer. It's democratizing the power to the people. And I love that, So that's incredible. Let me ask you this, Brycent. So 5 months ago, roughly, you spoke at NFT NYC. And you really called out Web3 gaming for, not being very fun. And you challenged the space and the games and the devs and the projects to do better. And in that time, we've had a lot of stuff come out. How are you feeling about the space right now, where it's at, the games that are out, or the games that have, alpha testing and beta testing, and, the current state of Web3 gaming? How are you feeling about it?
I like what we're seeing. I think that like games are getting better. I think that companies that are creating true valuable products around entertainment are getting better. And I don't think that, there's anything wrong with like card games or anything like that. Like I think Ice Poker is probably one of the best examples of a card game done right in the space. And they've continued to do right by their user base. So from my perspective, it's a combination of you see what games are doing from the past and how they try to make people scapegoats or try to create excuses. And, it gets to the point where it's like, you can't sit here and you can't throw community members under the bus and say, oh, well, we didn't intend to do this with our game. You raised hundreds of millions of dollars. It's like, you raised off the backs of those people who were playing that game, the same shit that you were perpetuating.
Right.
And then you decided to change the model, which is fine. But not only did you not like have any sort of like empathy for the people that, went through hardships or lost money, and not just Filipino people. I'm talking about the people in, like countries, like, consumer economies that spent money in these games as a byproduct of the way that these games were marketed and malicious. People don't understand how that has a negative impact on the space. It has less to do with the actual tokens. I wasn't pissed at tokens being in games. I'm pissed at people not like understanding how perception changes the way people interact with the space.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When people think of like what Web3 gaming was, like for the longest time, all they thought of was play to earn, hacks, and scams. Yeah. Now it's starting to change as we're seeing like a much better actors, but I'm excited for what's happening. We're seeing cool games launching. I have more stuff to play now than I had 6 months ago. And ultimately, I really don't give a fuck if a game likes or dislikes what I say. Like, I'm going to be here.
Yep.
I'm not going anywhere. And it's not to sound cocky or anything, because I'm thankful that, God has put me in this position. But to be honest, fuck your game.
Yeah.
You don't need me to play it.
Right.
But you're not going to get gamers to play it either.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit here and perpetuate like it's a half decent game if it's just a farming simulator that is used to be a place for you to get exit liquidity on the backs of people who are coming in looking for a lighthearted gaming experience.
1000%, man. And no, it's on everybody in the industry, right? But it's, certainly the content creators to hold these games accountable and speak truth to power. And, the whole point of Web3 gaming is to build games and build economies that are better than the traditional gaming counterparts, right? And it's funny because we have this parallel right now with what's happening in the crypto industry and FTX going down. It's like they got caught up doing the same things that the banks were doing in 2008, and it's like that was not what we're here for. We're here to build something better. So,
Yep.
and a lot of the crypto industry, maybe should have been calling this out a little bit more and a little bit more skeptical. And, I mean, I'm not throwing shade at anybody because, it's very easy to get duped. We all kind of got duped, right? But we can probably in Web3 gaming take that lesson and be like, all right, like, we just did this in crypto. We've done it in macro. We've done it in traditional, world, long enough. We got to make sure that we get Web3 gaming right. But like I said, there's a lot that's out right now that's really cool and exciting. What are you excited about? What do you like in the space? I know you do, like, you're kind of like top 10, top 15 games posts. Like what's getting you excited right now, and that exists right now or is coming very, very soon?
Yeah, I'm super excited for Grit. I think Gala Games is making like really big strides for Web3.
Mm-hmm.
They have Grit that's doing incredibly well. They have Superior that's doing well. Like both of those games, I think, are going to be game changers for the space. On top of that, I also like what's happening over at STG Football. I think they're building a really cool and integrated football experience for the arcade or the casual gamer. And there are a lot of people that are playing their game now that have no clue that they're playing a Web3 game.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, I found the game on Facebook or the Epic Games Store. So it's like really interesting to see like companies creating and innovating. But those are three. I like Shrapnel, I like Dead Drop. Those are two more that I'm super keen and excited about. Also, I think Chibi Dinos and Rumble Kongs are looking really good. Ultimately, I don't play ice poker on stream because I personally don't think my audience is like the ice poker audience.
Yeah.
But I think that ice poker, to be honest, they have the same sort of like flywheel projection for me that like I do for STG Football, where there's already a built out audience for that style of game. And once like people like really dive in, like my mother, dude, she has a Web2 poker app on her phone.
Yeah.
She tells me she's probably putting close to 25 to 30 hours a week and playing poker on her phone casually. So it's like these games that they're building are very synonymous to what people are already playing, but providing them with more rewards. My mom's playing for like free tokens so she can like keep betting and playing with play money. I'm like, Mom, imagine if you could actually like see some upside in what you're doing. I'm sure you would take it a bit more seriously. So there's a lot of really cool games being built in the space, and then a lot of really cool companies looking to come into the space, not just from like a game studio perspective, but gaming like organizations are entering or trying to find ways to enter the space. You have Luminosity, which is like the holding company for EV.io or vice versa. They're doing really cool things. We've seen Optic Gaming. I had Hastro on my Twitter Spaces, and we chatted about Web3. So we're going and moving into a space where companies are realizing that this is going to be prominent in the future. And ultimately, I do think that we're going to see a variety of content creators that are in Web2 that eventually want to find ways to play these games, but they're going to want to work with Web3 creators because they're not going to know really like culturally endemic ways to introduce their audiences. And then there's also a couple of sleepers. I'm not going to like tease too much. I'm like in talks with a company to do something really, really big. If it happens, I think it would set the Web3 gaming world upside down. Completely. It's going to, if it happens, it will be the biggest, I would say the biggest like integration of Web2 content creators into Web3 gaming and Web2 audiences into Web3 that the space has ever seen. And we'll have to see what happens over time and how it gets there. They're building it out, and they want me involved in some way, shape, or form. But if it happens, I mean, you can see some of the 0% of streamers coming in, the biggest dogs looking to enter in ways that we haven't seen previously. So my fingers are crossed that it happens, but just teasing that there are some very big players that are looking to launch some sick opportunities in Web3 for creators of all sizes.
Yeah, talk about a teaser and a cliffhanger. I want to know. But man, that's exciting. That's super exciting. Maybe two more questions. How are you, like, just coming off the back of that, how are you feeling about the next 6, 12 months, 18 months of the space, 2023, obviously, bear market vibes, just macro and crypto, obviously, but it's so nice that like Web3 gaming is pretty detached from that. We're kind of still in our own little bubble, which is kind of nice. How are you feeling about the next 6 to 12, 18 months, overall in the space and some of these things coming to fruition? What do you think 2023 looks like for us?
I'm really excited. There's like so much good stuff happening, like that's coming to the space. I know for myself, I have my own personal goals, and like I've kind of teased a couple of times that, next year there's a very good chance you see me sign with an org. So, we're talking with a couple of orgs right now, and kind of figuring out what it looks like. We have some offers on the table that we're working through, and until like it's actually like something is contract signed, sealed, and delivered, I can't leak but so much. But I can say that we're in deep discussions with me signing and representing an org, as it would be the first time a Web3 gamer signs with a top esports org of any kind to be a content creator. So, there are really cool things happening. Companies are still spending money in the space, trying to bring on talent, trying to find ways to get people involved. And I mean, even next week, I think I have a pretty interesting announcement this week that I'm excited about, because this game I was like wanted to work with for a while. I think their branding is sick. But next week, man, I have an announcement that I'm super, super hyped for. It's with like one of the biggest Web3 companies in the space. So we have a lot of really cool, like, I know there's a lot of cliffhangers, but I can't legally say what I want to say until it's like, oh my God, the announcement is out and we're all seeing it. But I think it's going to usher in a new wave of companies looking to come in and sign talent and finding ways to incorporate Web3 into their business plan. So I hope to like be a pioneer in leading the charge of what it looks like 6 to 12 months from now. And there's 20 content creators signed to various organizations. And it is the thing of like, these audiences don't exist yet. I see so many people that, live off of where they once were. Yeah, dude, I was at a point where at one point, I was averaging thousands of viewers playing a video game, and that's great. And you know what else is great? That I feel just as bullish and excited about the space as I did now. As I did back then, as I do now. And regardless of whether it's one person or 1,000 people, just the fact that someone has taken the time out of their day to watch us. Even right now, we have 9, 10, 11 people that are watching us, super late night for us, but just watching us play and talk about like life and Web3. That's exceptional. That's 10 people that believe in this space as much as we do and are willing to be active participants in the growth of this space. That's 10 people that are going to go the extra mile to make sure that Axie is continuing and staying consistent with his content and putting out the best quality content for other people to find and be successful. That's 9 or 10 people that are going to be strong value adds in how you grow to the next 100 or 200 people. So it's like, you got to cultivate and build with your group and your audience now, because ultimately, as you grow, you'll look back at the days in those early moments and be like, damn, I miss those really small and candid and organic conversations.
Yeah, man, I love all that. I couldn't agree more. It's a really fun, and not to be like corny, but like it's a beautiful space to be in. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of. And I love like the philosophy that you kind of have about it. And I've referenced Gary Vee a couple times here, but like I've gotten a lot of inspiration from him. He talks about you can build the biggest building by just building the biggest building. You don't build the biggest building by tearing other buildings down. And also, like, someone winning does not prevent another person from winning. Like, there's enough for everybody, and we can all win in our various ways. And I've just taken that abundance mindset of like, life is not a competition. When I was younger, like ego and all this stuff, it's like, you feel like it's a competition, but it's really not, because like none of us are going to get out of this alive. So it's about,
that's a good point, man. Like, you're here for such a limited amount of time. If you think about it, like, what are we here for? Like, 75 years on Earth, maybe 25 of those years are spent sleeping,
Yeah.
Another 10, 15 of those years you're spent just trying to figure out what the hell's going on from the time that you're a baby to, like 15, 16. So, you miss probably, 30 to 40, let's say 40 years of your life to just trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Then you spend 3 to 5 years trying to figure out what your passions are. Half the time you go to college, do whatever you need to do. So that's like almost 50 years. So, I mean, you only really get 20 to 25 years to live. And I think that we're in that portion, like from the time that we are now until you're probably about like 55 or 60. Those are like, and you don't stop living past 60, but those are the years where you're like, yo, I get to go as hard as I can at something and really put my foot down. If everything fucking failed and the worst thing happened, there are two things that can happen. The worst thing is you die.
Yeah.
And, that is what it is. But the second worst thing is, like, if I lost everything and I had to go live back at home in my grandmother's basement and do the same shit all over again, I would take the chance and do it 100 times over, because ultimately I got to follow my passions and do something that I believed in, instead of living in this rat race of 9 to 5 and then getting older and then dying and looking back at like 75 being like, oh, I didn't do the things I wanted to do. I'd rather fail and fail and fail and fail and fail until I get it right, but learning during the process than to like give up on the things I want to do because I'm afraid that someone's not going to like my post, or I'm afraid that someone's not going to believe that I can do this. I believe that I can do this. Yeah. And if I have that type of confidence, other people are going to follow suit. And that's what a lot of people fail to realize. It starts with you and how you can take your confident mindset, regardless of the crypto markets, regardless of what people are thinking, and turn it into something special.
I love that, man. I love where you took that. I could not agree more. As someone who, got into the content game and was like, am I really going to put my face, my dumb voice out on the internet to like live forever? Like, who's going to watch me? Why would anyone
the world
watch?
needs to see that handsome face.
Yeah. Anyways, I appreciate that. But it's like, but that's such great advice for content creators and people building in this space of like, yo, like there's enough for everybody. And the worst thing that can happen is still probably not the worst thing, in the world, right? It's about the process, as you said, and it's about the journey, not the destination. And that's something that I've like come to, just hold dear. It's like, it's not a competition. It's about just doing it. And I'm very grateful that we get to wake up every day and, participate in this space, because it's a very fun, engaging, crazy space to be a part of. Brycent, I know it's late. I don't want to keep you too long. My last question for you. So you mentioned your POAPs earlier, and I think that, and I love that you're doing this. When you first announced it, I was like, that's such a great idea. Brycent's so smart. How does he come up with all this great shit? So tell us a little bit more about how you're doing that, because I do want people, that see this to take advantage of the opportunity that you're giving if they so choose to do so. So how's it going to work? What's the idea behind your POAPs?
Yeah, so I mean, I do a weekly POAP, and my plan is to eventually, probably sometime early next year in spring, I'm going to launch my own NFT. It's going to be a free mint NFT. And I don't expect it to mint out. The intention isn't for it to mint out, because the way it's going to work is you're going to have to own a certain percentage of my POAPs to have the right to mint. So once you have a certain percentage in your wallet, you will be given the right and granted the right to mint. And that NFT is going to unlock, pretty much everything related to my brand in different ways and categories, like the associated giveaways I'm currently doing, like expanding that, working on partnerships, finding opportunities for people to do things within my brand, but then also other things that people can do, and finding and recommending people opportunities in Web3. I've recently recommended a friend of mine for a head of gaming position at a really cool Series C stage startup that's building in the gaming space. So it's like, I want to be able to create an ecosystem around what I'm doing that rewards people for participating and being a part of my community. And I think that involves eventually me launching something, but I don't want it to be this paid, oh, you pay me to get this. No, like, you watching my content is payment enough, and you should be able to mint and like take part in the upside of what I'm doing. So I'm excited to eventually launch it. It's probably going to happen sometime early next year, but I mean, there'll only ever be 1,000, but in the early days, I mean, I only expect like 20 to 25 people to actually own enough of the POAPs to be able to actually mint. So it'll be a really cool experiment of how you can build a strong community around what you're doing and then find ways to like incentivize people and get them involved, whether it's like me hosting, IRL events where you have to hold it to do things, or I think the ability to exchange that NFT for actual things. Like if I launch Brycent merch, being able to take it, okay, I got the NFT in the free mint, I can exchange the NFT for Brycent merch. Like I want to create an entire ecosystem around how people, spend their time watching my streams and that time being turned in some sort of value that is applicable to their lives, whether it's, something they can redeem on my streams or something they can redeem within my entire ecosystem. So I'm excited to build it out. I've been thinking a while about it, but the POAP thing was something where I was like, this is like the perfect use case for what this is. And then also I wanted something that I don't think that people subscribing to my Twitch channel is like that shouldn't be the end all be all. Like if you want to subscribe and support me, great, but I don't want you to think that that's like a necessity to like be a part of my community. But in subscribing to a Twitch channel leaves the subscriber or the person, they can only flex that on Twitch.
Yeah.
If you own a POAP that eventually transmutes into an actual like NFT, like you are a holder, you are a sole individual who is a part of this community, and you can flex that in multiple places. And I think that that's super important as well, because no one's going around flexing that, oh, I'm a 12-month, subscriber to Pokemon. There's no way for you to do that. But imagine, like if Pokemon had our own, creator NFT that was signified you as a subscriber and it gave you access to certain things. Like you would like really take that into account in a much more, I would say high esteem. So the focus is creating a free model around my brand that allows people to participate and be active and have a place to grow within my community.
I love this so much, dude. It's such a perfect blend of exactly everything that you just said. The free model, right? So it's you're not charging anything. There's no money involved. It's not about that. It's really about rewarding the people that are supporting you. It's on chain. It's verifiable. It's immutable. It's leveraging this technology, and you said it perfectly. It's a perfect use case for how this can work. It's people who are invested in you that get to like I guess it wouldn't be a player-owned economy, but it would be, a viewer-owned ecosystem, or a viewer, participation ecosystem, which just is like such a cool method of creator and so, I don't like saying fans or like supporters, but the people who rock with us, right? And then also the art is unique because you're doing something really cool with the art. Maybe you can speak to that in just a second, but like it's an authentic, original piece of art from you or from your mind that you're, giving out. Like I messaged you because I wanted like the first week one because I connected with the art. The art was really cool. It was your first week's POAP. So I was like, dude, I rock with Brycent. I support Brycent. I want that. I want that flex. I want that on-chain thing, because it's not just like it's not just a badge, right? It's also a moment in time because it's time stamped on the blockchain. So
for sure,
it's just such a perfect blend of everything.
And there's only I only do 50 every single week. So it's never, some weeks they like completely mint out. Some weeks we'll get very close, but there's only ever going to be 50 every week. And I intentionally do that because I don't want, my intention is when this shit mints, like I want it to be like 3 years before we see 1,000 people reach enough POAPs to actually mint out the collection. Like I'd love to see like 20 or 30 people who have enough to mint year one. And like those 20 or 30 people are going to get like the most exclusive, most intimate relationship and interactions with me possible for being my first holders and helping me steer where this goes. And then over time, it gradually becomes, more expansive. But like my idea is it shouldn't be a thing where you like look up overnight and then it's like, oh my God, I just want as many people as possible. No, I want as many people who are very much connected to my brand and what I'm doing and wanting to be a part of my community to be a part of it. And I don't want it to be a thing of like, I'm not looking for NFT folks. I'm not looking for people who want to flip assets. I'm looking for people who love Web3 gaming, people who love my content. And at the end of the day, people that I can also, reward or provide value to. So I very much focus on like a niche audience and market. And of course, you're not going to see the results of like, the people who are going all out to like, get as much engagement as possible. My idea is like 50 to 100 really strong folks who care about what I'm doing and want to be a part of it and want to grow with it are going to be way more impactful for Web3 games and organizations that want to work for me than the 500 or 1,000 people who are just looking for, something for free and like looking to flip it. So it's like completely changed the model. And I mean, if my brand does, get to the point where, Web3 gaming is mainstream and 5 years from now, the person who bought, the person who got to claim a free mint POAP and there's only 1,000 of them, I mean, that could be worth way, way more in the future. And they're going to be able to look back at it and say, wow, I really was exchanging, IRL viewership value for a tangible asset. And now maybe I can sell it for life-changing money if I want, or I can continue to be a part of the community 5, 6, 7 years from now. I think that's way more impactful to, providing viewer-based rewards to the people who help these content creators take off. And I'm thankful to be able to do it with my community.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. I just think like long-term games with long-term people, and that's exactly what you're doing. And it's super cool. Brilliant idea. And yeah, super excited to see everything that you do and where you go. But I think that's probably good. I want to respect your time. So it's probably good for the episode. Brycent, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. Again, you're a shining example, whether you want to be or not for the space. And really, you're a leader and a pillar in the space that like a lot of us look up to and like aspire to reach in terms of impact or just like vibes and energy because we're all bullish on the space. We all want the space to grow and we all want to like build and uplift each other. But like, it's because of the people like you in the community that are, embodying those values and pushing that stuff forward that makes everyone else want to do it. So I appreciate you so much. And yeah, this has been great, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I mean, you are one of the people that I'm excited to see your journey and trajectory. You're crushing it with Decentral Games and Ice Poker. And like when the announcement came out, like the partnership, this is going to be like the start of a partnership that expands beyond, I think, both parties' wildest dreams. I think you guys are going to look back on this in like 3 to 5 years and think, damn, we really got together at the right time and created something magical. So I'm just excited to see where you go and support you throughout the process.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. And that'll do it. And guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.